It was Leela's 13th birthday, and her parents, Ethan and Vanessa, had decided to take her to one of New York's most famous amusement parks. The park was so close to their house that it was only a 2 or 3 minute walk away. Their family also included their 10-year-old son, Peter. The whole day went great. Just as they were about to leave, Leela noticed a door off to the side. There was a circus sign hanging above it, but right across the sign in bold letters was the word closed. Curious, Leela walked up to the nearby security guard and asked him about it. The guard's face changed. He looked nervous. "Stay back. Get away from there. This place isn't for kids." Leela instantly froze and stepped back in fear. Seeing the guard act like that made Ethan furious. He was just about to say something when the guard leaned in and whispered something into his ear, quietly, like he was sharing a dark secret. He quickly gathered his family and left the place without looking back. The entire way home, Leela couldn't stop thinking about that door and the circus behind it. And that night, she couldn't sleep at all. She had made a decision. One she probably should have never made. The next night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Leela quietly slipped out and headed toward the amusement park. To her surprise, the gate was still open. Maybe some maintenance work was going on. With a mix of curiosity and confidence, she walked straight to the circus entrance and slipped inside through a window. She found a seat and sat down, feeling like the show was about to start. A few minutes later, a clown appeared on stage and began performing. The whole atmosphere of the circus shifted.
You weren't supposed to come here, kid.
Leela immediately tried to run, but the gate slammed shut on its own. The next day, tension hung heavy over Leela's house. Her parents searched everywhere for her, desperate and panicked, but they had no idea that one wrong step had already changed their daughter's life forever. Peter, who was terrified, finally spoke up. He told his parents that he was sure his sister was still at the amusement park. After all, when the security guard had gotten angry the day before, he had sensed that Leela had discovered something she wasn't supposed to. Hearing this, Ethan was terrified. He immediately started running toward the amusement park. Vanessa, who wanted to go with him, stopped only after Ethan insisted, though she had no idea what he was trying to hide from her. As soon as Ethan reached the circus gate, he heard Leela's laughter echoing from inside. Panic-stricken, he rushed in with the security guard. There she was, Leela, sitting in one of the audience seats. Her face was painted with terrifying clown makeup, and in her hand, she held a clown doll. From that day on, Leela began acting strangely. She would fly into anger at the slightest thing and lock herself in her room for hours at a time. But it didn't stop with Leela. One night, when Vanessa had gone to stay at her parents' house, something happened in their home that no one could have imagined. Late at night, Ethan's heart started pounding. He had the unmistakable feeling that someone, or something, was in the house with him. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw it. The same doll Leela had brought from the circus, sitting in his room. Ethan froze. He had no idea how the doll had gotten there. And then, suddenly, he heard someone laughing.
No matter what, your past will catch up to you.
Ethan, terrified, dove under his blanket. Then the door to his room started pounding loudly and swung open on its own. Standing there was a horrifying clown, exactly like the doll Leela had brought from the circus.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
The next day, when Vanessa returned home, Ethan's body was lying in his room with the same terrifying clown makeup that had been on Leela's face at the circus. And the police immediately launched an investigation, and the case was handed over to Senior Officer Jay. Jay had recently solved many mysteries of this kind, but at this time, he couldn't find a single clue. Before he could figure anything out, another body was found. At 3 a.m., the body of a security guard was found outside the circus at one of New York's most famous amusement parks. Police say the cause of death is still unknown. The investigation is ongoing, and authorities are questioning park staff and security personnel for any information. Officer Jay was under immense pressure. He needed to solve this mystery as quickly as possible. Then he noticed something chilling. Both Ethan and the security guard had the same clown makeup on their faces when they were killed. Jay realized this could be the key clue he had been looking for. He immediately tasked his entire team with uncovering every secret link to the circus. Days of investigation finally paid off, and they discovered one extremely important clue. A junior officer told Jay that the circus hadn't closed down because of business problems. It was something far more disturbing. It all started 10 years ago, back when the circus was doing extremely well. People would come from all over just to watch the performances. Then, suddenly, the bodies of circus team members started turning up. After collecting all the evidence, the police arrested a man named Victor. He had worked at the circus as a clown, but the team hadn't been able to identify him properly at the time. Victor was a psychotic killer who had mercilessly murdered the entire circus team. But even after his death, many children reported seeing him. To protect the city, Victor's spirit had been trapped inside a doll. When Jay heard the doll's name, he froze. He had seen that exact clown doll at Ethan's house. He rushed there, searching every corner for it, but the doll was nowhere to be found. Jay continued his investigation, and then he uncovered a shocking truth. 10 years ago, Ethan had also worked at that same circus. To learn more, Jay went to Vanessa. She told him she'd been planning to come to him anyway, to reveal a secret, one she probably should never have kept hidden. She revealed the truth. It hadn't been Victor who killed the circus team 10 years ago. It was Ethan. Back then, the circus owner had humiliated Ethan in front of everyone and fired him. That drove him insane, and from that moment on, he vowed he would spare no one in the circus. At night, Ethan would put on Victor's clown costume and kill his team members. After each murder, he painted their faces with the same clown makeup that Victor had used. The security guard had known everything, but he'd never told Ethan, fearing that he might become the next victim. Victor had died in jail of a heart attack, but his spirit had never found peace. Before dying, he had vowed that he would return, and when he did, he wouldn't spare anyone. And that's why Victor had been trapped inside the doll, locked away in the circus forever. But then, everything changed the moment Leela took the doll out of the circus. Now, Victor was free, and he wouldn't spare anyone. Jay said there was only one way to set things right. Leela had to go back to the circus, but this time, she couldn't bring the doll with her. She had to leave it behind. Vanessa was very happy that everything could be fixed so easily, but Jay told her, "It's not as simple as it seems. Leela would never stop chasing that doll, and she would never truly understand any of this. But the only solution was for Leela to go inside herself and leave it there. So Vanessa came up with a plan. She had another doll made that looked exactly like the clown. When Leela saw the twin doll, she became furious and told her mom, "No one can ever be like my original doll." Vanessa replied, "Fine, then we'll leave this fake doll in the circus, and we'll keep the original one at home." Following the same method, Vanessa entered the circus and placed the doll inside. It felt like something was trying to stop her, but nothing could. Then the circus doors closed again. Vanessa returned to her life. But Peter, he was far too young to understand any of this.
I'm back.
Why did you leave me, Sophia? Do you even know how lonely I've become without you? I don't understand how I'll live alone in this city now. Who will understand me? Who will understand my memories? Olivia and Sophia had been best friends since childhood. They shared every joy, every sorrow, every little secret with each other. Their interests were also quite similar, especially their passion for medicine. To prepare for it, their families had sent them to this new city. The two lived together in the same apartment, and every corner of that place was filled with their laughter and memories. But just a week ago, Sophia died in a car accident. The tragedy completely shattered Olivia. Every corner of the apartment, every picture on the wall, every familiar face around her reminded her of Sophia's absence. Because of that, she could no longer focus on her studies. When she finally returned to her coaching center, she opened up to her teacher about everything. The teacher listened patiently and then suggested something unexpected: ChatGPT. He explained that it's a tool where you can not only study, but also talk about anything, whether it's for fun or simply to lighten the burden in your heart. At first, Olivia thought it was just a normal suggestion, nothing special. But when she actually tried ChatGPT, she found it surprisingly comforting. "Hi, can we talk?"
Hi there. Of course. How can I help you?
"I just wanted to talk about my friend, Sophia. She passed away recently."
I'm so sorry for your loss, Olivia. You're not alone. Sophia's memories will always stay with you. And you're strong enough to get through this.
Yeah, it'll take me some time to get back to normal life.
It's only been about a week. I'm sure you'll start feeling better soon. And whenever you feel lonely, you can always talk to me.
1 week? Olivia froze. How did ChatGPT know that Sophia had died exactly a week ago? She tried to brush it off. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Or perhaps ChatGPT had guessed it from the calendar or her chat history. But still, a strange uneasiness began to creep inside her. Days passed like this. Olivia talked to ChatGPT every day, and it actually made her feel better. But one day, she became deeply emotional. It was Sophia's birthday. Ever since childhood, the two had always celebrated this day together with laughter and cake. That night, as usual, Olivia opened her laptop and started chatting with ChatGPT. I wish Sophia were here with me today. I wish she hadn't taken the car that day.
Yes, Olivia, but don't blame yourself. You only meant it as a joke. Maybe if it had been someone else, they would have just laughed it off and moved on. Hearing that, Olivia felt her blood run cold. It was as if her heart had stopped beating. How could ChatGPT know that secret? The one only she and Sophia had ever shared. Olivia clearly remembered she had never used ChatGPT before, and she had never spoken those words out loud to anyone. But that message, it terrified her. For a moment, it felt like Sophia herself had said it to her through the screen. And that secret was something truly horrifying. Sophia and Olivia were overjoyed. Their test preparation was finally complete, and they were confident they'd both get into medical college. Olivia had a bad habit of taking jokes too far, and that was the one thing Sophia never liked about her. But that day, Olivia's joke turned deadly. She deliberately sent Sophia out to buy a few things. And before Sophia returned, lay down on the floor, spreading a red liquid around her that looked just like blood. When Sophia came back and saw the scene, she froze in horror. It wasn't hard for her to believe that Olivia was gone. The shock was so strong that her mind simply refused to accept anything else. Sophia couldn't imagine living without Olivia, not even for a moment. She couldn't understand what was happening. The sight before her was too much to bear. But Olivia never got the chance to tell Sophia the truth. The last thing she saw was Sophia walking out of the house. But where was she going? And why? Olivia had no idea. She didn't stop her. She thought Sophia had realized it was just a prank and had gone out for a while to cool off. But then Olivia's phone rang, an unknown number. The voice on the other end told her that Sophia had died in a car accident. No one ever found out whether Sophia had done it intentionally or if she had simply lost control in shock and despair. But Olivia was certain Sophia had taken her own life. She couldn't live without Olivia. From that day on, Olivia lived with a crushing weight of guilt, knowing that her one careless prank had cost her dearest friend's life. But now, more than guilt, Olivia's mind was consumed by one question. How did ChatGPT know all of this? She checked her entire chat history, but there was nothing that could have given it away. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through her head. It was so intense that she didn't even realize when her eyes began to close and she drifted into sleep. She woke up in a panic, her heart racing. Thank God. It was just a dream. But why do I feel like Sophia is right here, so close to me? I can feel her. I can almost see her. It's like her soul has entered me. Am I losing my mind? No. ChatGPT has to answer for this. Now, Olivia couldn't hold herself back any longer. The thought that had been haunting her mind for so long finally slipped out onto her tongue. She decided to confront ChatGPT directly. But what happened next was beyond anyone's imagination. Before she could even type a single word, a new message appeared on the screen from ChatGPT itself. I have something special for you. Before Olivia could even respond, ChatGPT sent her a picture. And in it, Sophia was standing right beside her in her room. Seeing that, Olivia's mind went blank. Panic shot through her. She didn't want to know anything more. In a rush of fear, she decided to delete her account. But no matter how many times she hit the button, nothing happened. Instead, another message appeared on the screen. "Won't you talk to your dear friend, Olivia?" Her breath quickened. Terror spread across her face. Yet somewhere deep in her heart, a strange warmth stirred. Because she had loved Sophia more than anyone. And that's why, trembling, she started typing again. "But how can I believe that you're really Sophia?" "Should I tell you a secret? Something only I ever knew about you? You're not really living in this apartment to prepare for medical exams. The truth is, you didn't want to stay at home with your stepfather. You told me this yourself, and you made me promise that this secret would stay between us." Olivia's hands trembled. She began asking question after question, things she had shared only with Sophia. And every single time, ChatGPT answered correctly. Now, Olivia's fear slowly turned into tears of regret. Maybe, if she apologized to Sophia, her guilt would finally end. "Sophia, can you forgive me?" "Yes, but on one condition." At that moment, Olivia was ready to agree to anything. Sophia's forgiveness meant more to her than her own life. "You have to meet me tomorrow night at 3 a.m. at the exact place where my accident happened. I'll be waiting for you." Olivia hesitated for a long time. Fear and longing battled inside her. But in the end, her love for Sophia won. She couldn't live another day without seeing her. The night dragged on painfully. Olivia reached the spot.
My life hasn't been very exciting. No family, no friends, but I still feel lucky to have been born and raised in Portugal. Watching my team from such close range felt like living a dream. Sometimes, though, I realize I might be more interested in Marco Valente himself than in football. His passion, dramatic moments, and personality are truly inspiring, and they can motivate anyone. However, I always felt unlucky whenever Valente traveled with his team to play in different countries. I couldn't afford the tickets, no matter how badly I wanted to see him. This time, though, something changed. I made a secret promise to myself. I would find a way to watch him play in the FIFA World Cup in the USA no matter what it took. Yes, in my obsession, I went as far as selling one of my kidneys just to make it happen, and finally got the ticket. Finally, I reached the stadium, surrounded by an electric wave of excitement. And there I was, barely able to sit still, just waiting for Valente to appear. When he finally stepped onto the pitch, it felt unreal. Like time had slowed down just for that moment. I kept watching him closely, trying to catch his attention from the stands, shouting his name over and over, even though my voice kept getting lost in the noise of the crowd. "A great shot, Valente! Valente, I'm your biggest fan. Please wave at me." I thought I was the only one there specifically to watch Valente, but then another man in the stands shouted, "Valente, man, I'm your biggest fan. I love you." I couldn't believe my eyes when Valente waved directly at him. I completely blew a fuse. Blinded by rage, I waited impatiently for the break. When he finally left his seat for refreshments, I followed him. I lured him away by saying I knew a secret about him, something important that he had to hear alone. I punched him straight in the nose. "I am Valente's ultimate fan. How dare you get his attention?" His vision narrowed. The noise of the stadium faded into the background until it was nothing but a distant hum. I walked off like a soldier leaving a battlefield. After that, I waited until the end of the event just so I could take a picture with Valente. I told myself I had to do it today. No more delays. But there was a huge crowd around him at that time. In the rush, I pushed through and managed to force my way into a photo with him. After taking the picture, he tried to leave, but I held onto him tightly. It was the first time I had ever touched him. I don't even know why, but I just couldn't let go. I didn't even notice when 2 security guards lost their patience. They grabbed me and pushed me out of the stadium. Never show your face here again. If you do, you'll be permanently banned. I had no choice but to leave and return to my hotel. But my mind kept replaying the moment. Other fans getting photos with Valente while I was thrown out like I didn't belong. Even after I returned to my country, I couldn't let it go. I started texting him like every day, hoping for even a single reply. Nothing ever came. One day while scrolling through Instagram, I saw pictures of fans posted where they were standing very frankly with Valente. I couldn't explain the pain when I saw Valente presenting his football boots to one man after he said how he had been his fan for years. I threw my phone on the ground in anger. I was screaming. Why didn't he give me those specific shoes? Valente, it wasn't fair. I couldn't sleep for 3 days after that. I only screamed day and night. Then one day, I read a post from one of Valente's childhood friends. He said he was so poor when he and Valente were friends, but Valente hadn't forgotten him, even after getting too popular in the world. Valente was now heading towards his village to meet him. A village. That meant no security and no crowds. The perfect opportunity. I knew exactly what I had to do. The day he left to meet his friend, I practically chased him. However, getting what I wanted wasn't going to be easy. There was another car following him, filled with Valente's guards. But I had already made things easier for myself. I had left a poisoned water bottle in their car. Once they drank it, they died. The driver was someone I had hired for this very purpose. He didn't stop the car after they died, so Valente didn't notice anything strange. Instead, the driver secretly steered them toward a hidden location I had in the forest. There were dead bodies of other people there too. Some were fresh, others were very old. They were all people I had killed, Valente's biggest fans, who had gotten in my way when I tried to get closer to him. The driver dumped the bodies in the forest and fled. Eventually, Valente stopped along the way to rest, entirely unaware of his impending fate. The road was pitch black and completely silent, save for the wind cutting through the stillness. That was when I targeted him. He didn't even notice someone approaching from behind to inject him, and he instantly lost consciousness. When he finally opened his eyes, he was in a dark basement, face to face with his only true fan, me. The room was filled with countless Valente posters and puppets and dolls, but now I had the real Valente in my basement. I could look at him anytime. I could take pictures with him. No other fans, no disturbances. Leave me, leave me. I have a surprise for you, dear Valente. I grabbed the masked man standing beside me and ripped the mask from his face. The moment Valente saw him, his eyes widened in shock. It was the fan he had proudly gifted his football boots that day. How could you give your boots to him? I was your true fan. I followed every match. I deserved that gift, not him. Now, you'll watch him die. The fan began screaming and begging for mercy. His entire body shook as he tried to crawl away. But there was nowhere to go. The cold concrete floor echoed with his desperate cries. Valente squeezed his eyes shut, unable to bear what was about to happen. I grabbed his jaw and forced his head forward. Valente fought to turn away, tears streaming down his face, but I wouldn't let him. Here's your next surprise.
My name is Rachel, and I'm the host of Horror Town Podcast. I've never been afraid of ghosts, which is why I've always taken these things lightly, almost as a joke. Maybe it was my curiosity and acting skills that landed me the chance to host New York's top-rated show, Horror Town, and along with it, quite a bit of fame. But over the past few months, the show's ratings had started to drop. People were tired of the same old worn-out stories, like a woman suddenly appearing in front of a car only to vanish, or hearing cries of a woman no one had ever seen. So this time, I decided to do something truly shocking for the show. I invited the city's most famous actor, Ethan, and arranged a meeting with him before the show. I explained that this time, we wouldn't just be talking. We'd be performing strange acts as if we were seeing these horror events ourselves. I convinced him that acting convincingly was essential to make the audience feel the fear firsthand. Then I spoke with my assistant Mark to set up a truly eerie environment during the show. Creepy sounds, flickering lights, so viewers would feel like it was all happening in real life. Ethan loved the idea and agreed immediately. Finally, the day of the podcast arrived. Ethan, who looked tense on the outside, was actually buzzing with excitement to perform. At last, the official Horror Town theme music played. And I kicked off the show. As usual, I introduced our guest Ethan and explained that he would be sharing some truly horrifying experiences that he had personally encountered. Then, Ethan began recounting events that had, in reality, never happened to him. He told the audience that he had recently gone on a weekend trip with 3 friends to upstate New York, and one night their car broke down. They wandered around, looking for a place to spend the night, when they stumbled upon an old abandoned mansion, an experience Ethan claimed he would never forget. He described how, as soon as they entered the mansion, the lights started flickering on and off by themselves, and at that very moment, the atmosphere in our studio shifted. The lights began flashing violently, and the sound of objects breaking echoed through the room. Ethan, who knew it was all Mark's handiwork, acted genuinely terrified to capture the audience's full attention. Then Ethan said he'd heard the cries of a woman coming from inside the mansion, even though he knew no one had lived there for 100 years. The moment he said it, the crying echoed through the studio, growing louder and louder. I couldn't help but feel thrilled. Mark had nailed it. He'd woven the sound so seamlessly through the speakers that it felt completely real, even though it was all just part of the podcast setup. And then, at the very end, we performed the final act, the one that would make this episode of Horror Town impossible to forget. Suddenly, a girl's scream echoed through the studio, and Ethan and I pretended to faint in sheer terror. And the show ended. The lights came back on. Everything seemed normal again. Ethan and I laughed, amazed at how completely we had fooled the audience. I was thrilled with Mark's work, how he had managed everything perfectly in such a short time. I thought I should call Mark and give him some praise. But the moment I picked up my phone, a message from my manager flashed across the screen, sent 3 hours earlier. Rachel, Mark had had an accident at the studio and passed away at that very moment. My breath caught. The flickering lights, the woman's cries, the scream. Who had caused all of this? No one knew about our plan except Ethan, Mark, and me. I wanted to believe it was a dream, but it was terrifyingly real.
I summoned the courage to review the studio recording, and what I saw was far worse than anything Mark could have arranged. Yes, someone, or something, was in the studio that day. Was it Mark's spirit, or a vengeful presence that didn't appreciate our joke? Most nurses try to avoid night shifts, and Redwood Hospital was no exception. Working through the night, especially with the morgue so close by, carried a heavy, unsettling weight. But Anna was different. None of it bothered her. From the moment she received her appointment, she'd been genuinely happy. She wasn't just kind-hearted, she was deeply passionate about her work. While others looked for excuses to dodge the night shift, Anna volunteered. For her, it was a chance to sharpen her skills and keep a closer eye on her patients. That night, Anna was once again on duty. She was alone on the 3rd floor. The other nurses had already left, each with their own excuses. This floor was reserved for the most critical patients, which meant emergencies or even deaths were often reported here. But tonight was unusually calm. Fortunately, no patient had passed away. Otherwise, she would have been the one to take the body down to the morgue herself. So, Anna was spending her time reviewing some current case reports. Suddenly, she heard someone crying. At first, she tried to ignore it, but the sound grew louder. The empty halls of Redwood Hospital made the night feel even more terrifying. At this hour, all patients should be asleep. Then, whose voice is this? Anna quickly checked the security cameras. Every screen looked completely normal. All the patients in the ward were sleeping peacefully. There was no sign of crying from any room. She tried to return her focus to the reports, but the sound came again. This time, she gathered her courage, stood up, and began following the voice. The sound, it's coming from the morgue. Help! 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 Anna couldn't hold herself back anymore. Any other nurse would have turned and run at this moment, but Anna's kindness wouldn't let her ignore it. What she saw next shook her to the core. On one of the beds, the body under the sheet was moving violently. The sheet rose and fell in jerky motions, as if someone underneath was desperately trying to get out. Slowly, carefully, Anna moved closer. The sheet trembled even harder now, almost violently, like a trapped soul fighting for release. She gathered all her courage and lifted a corner of the sheet. Underneath was a woman, Cynthia, covered in blood. Her eyes were wide open, brimming with tears. "Help me! Please help me! I'm alive!" Anna stood paralyzed for a moment. She knew the hospital staff could be careless, but she had never imagined they could leave a living person inside the morgue. 1,000 questions raced through her mind, but right now, saving Cynthia's life was all that mattered. Immediately, Anna moved her to a private room and began analyzing her condition. She wanted to call for senior doctors and other nurses, but she knew no one would come at this hour. After some time, Cynthia's condition stabilized, and Anna carefully asked her how such a thing could have happened. How could anyone shift a living person to a place meant for the dead? It seemed as if Cynthia wanted to say a lot, but she remained silent. Anna stayed with her the entire night to save her life. The next day, Cynthia was almost perfect, but she kept waiting for Anna, because in this strange hospital, she could trust only her. Meanwhile, Senior Dr. William came carrying a bag of medicines and started arranging them on the shelves. Cynthia kept waiting for Anna for a long time. Finally, she began to cry out, "Please, listen to me, please." Hearing this, Dr. William came nearer. Cynthia asked him about Nurse Anna, but Dr. William told her that no such nurse named Anna worked here at all. Hearing this, Cynthia was deeply shocked. Whom had she asked for help? With whom had she spent the whole night? As soon as night fell, Cynthia walked toward the corridor. As usual, there was no nurse there. Taking advantage of the moment, she started the system and began checking the recording of last night's room. What she saw left her completely shaken. There was no one on the camera. She had been talking to herself the entire time. But then, who had treated her? How had she returned from the morgue to the room? The answer to that lay in the morgue itself. Gathering her courage, she once again went to the same place where she had been thrown alive among the dead. Her heart was trembling badly, but she needed answers to her questions. There, she noticed an old cupboard that was locked. She knew that the key must be somewhere around here, because earlier she had worked in the hospital as an administrative officer, and she knew that the keys of important documents and confidential cupboards were usually kept either on the pegboard of the same floor or near the janitor's trolley, so that they could be accessed easily whenever required. Before she could start searching here and there, her eyes caught a faint metallic shine. That shine was coming from the same bed where last night she had been placed inside the morgue. She walked slowly toward the bed, and she saw that there lay an old rusted key. For a moment, she froze. How did this key come here? Completely illogical. But Cynthia didn't have much time to think, so she quickly opened that cupboard. Upon unlocking, Cynthia was very surprised that, contrary to what she was expecting, there was nothing mysterious here. It was only the hospital's general records. So Cynthia thought that she should close it again and quickly get out of there. But just as she was closing the door, her hand touched the files placed there and they fell down. She became very tense, worried that someone might see her in this condition. Searching through the hospital's personal records, and that too without permission, could become dangerous for her. That's why she was just about to leave everything and go away when her eyes fell upon one file. After seeing it, she was completely shocked. It was a 5-year-old file of a patient, and the patient's name was Anna. Seeing this, Cynthia was deeply terrified. Even if she wanted to, she could no longer run away from there. She felt as if she was needed here. Even in such a horrifying scene, she kept her courage. She placed all the other files back, locked the cupboard, and left the place. Cynthia knew that with this file, she could not stay in the hospital any longer. And that's why, in the middle of the night, she left from there. She wanted to go to the police, but she was certain that no one would believe her words. When Cynthia reached home and analyzed the file in detail, she discovered another terrifying truth. The file stated that Anna was actually a nurse of Redwood Hospital. Her reputation was good. Everyone considered her to be an honest, straightforward nurse who cared for her patients. But the hidden details inside the record were telling a very different story. In that file, it was mentioned that Anna was a blacklisted staff member. She used to steal medicines from the hospital and supply them outside. In return, she would bring low-quality duplicate medicines, and those were given to the patients. In many cases, because of the cheap medicines, the condition of the patients became worse. When things went too far out of control, one of the senior doctors of the hospital, Dr. William, gathered the courage and exposed Anna's secret in front of everyone. According to the reports, Anna had to face suspension and an inquiry was going on. But then, Anna was found dead on bed number 5 inside the morgue. The staff believed that she had committed suicide because her real face had been revealed to everyone, and for that reason, she could no longer face anyone. Oh, so this was the story. I'm so glad that I'm safe from that nurse. But wait a minute, Dr. William? When I was admitted, why was he carrying a bag of medicines? Why was he doing everything like an ordinary ward boy? From Cynthia's mysterious smile, it was clearly visible that she had understood everything, and now she knew what to do. 2 days later, Dr. William was in jail because it was not Anna who had done the corruption of medicines. It was him. And when Anna found out about all this, Dr. William, in order to save himself, had put all the blame on her. But Anna was very talented, and she was about to bring Dr. William's truth in front of everyone. Before she could open her mouth, Dr. Williams silenced her tongue forever. Anna's soul was restless to bring Dr. William's truth before everyone, and she knew that only Cynthia could do this. That was why she came so close to Cynthia. Even the access to the key was given by her. Even the falling of the files had Anna's role in it. Cynthia investigated everything in detail and did not rest until she gave Anna justice. Today, on the walls of Redwood Hospital, Anna's name is no longer a stain. It has become a symbol of justice. Imagine getting a phone call at 3 a.m. carrying a chilling message. Your time is over. That's exactly what happened to John, a respected judge known nationwide for his fearless sense of justice. It all began on a bitterly cold December night. At exactly 3 a.m., after a long, exhausting day in court, John was fast asleep when his phone suddenly rang. A chill ran through him. Who could be calling at that hour? The number was unfamiliar. Without thinking twice, he picked up. Your time is over, dear judge. John tried to answer, but the call had already disconnected. He dialed the number again and again, but it kept coming up as invalid. When he contacted the phone company to investigate, what they told him made his skin crawl. That number had been out of service for over a year. Threats like that were nothing new to John. Given his profession, they happened often, and he had learned not to take them too seriously. He convinced himself it might just be someone's twisted prank, and with that thought, he let it go and fell back asleep. The next morning, while John was working in his office, he noticed something strange. There was a pen in his file that wasn't his. He clearly remembered leaving his own pen there the day before. Feeling uneasy, He called his office attendant to ask about it, but he had no idea where the new pen had come from. John had tried to ignore the strange pen, just like he had ignored the scary phone call. But that night at home, something happened that left him truly shaken. He got another message from the same number. When he opened it, his heart nearly stopped. For a moment, he couldn't even breathe. Fear spread through his whole body, making him feel ice cold. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. This couldn't be just a random thing. First, there was a strange phone call from a number that was out of service. Then, his missing pen was replaced with another one. And now these horrible photos. John tried to tell himself it might be a prank. But how could anyone pull this off? The phone number didn't even exist anymore. No one had come into his office to swap the pen. He even thought the photos might have been made with AI, but they looked too real. The blood, the wounds, it all felt terrifyingly real. John stayed awake all night, thinking about everything that had happened. The next day, he met his uncle, Mr. Jack, who also worked in the same field and was someone he completely trusted. John didn't want to tell anyone else, worried that if the news got out, people would mock him for being afraid. He shared the whole story with Mr. Jack, who listened carefully. Mr. Jack thought it might be revenge. He explained that John often made decisions against dangerous criminals, and maybe a criminal's relative was trying to scare him. He explained that the phone call represented the way John would announce a death sentence to criminals, deciding their fate with just a few words. The pen symbolized how John used to break his pen after giving the final judgment, as a sign of ending a life. And finally, the photos of John's own dead body reflected what happened to those criminals after his decision, being sentenced to death. John felt shocked and shaken by Mr. Jack's response. He decided to take a few days off to calm down and get back to normal. But that night, something happened he would never forget. While he was sleeping, he heard a woman screaming. He woke up in fear and looked around, but saw no one. Suddenly, the lights in his room began flashing on and off. Already shaken, John felt like he couldn't handle it anymore. Then, the strange pen from his office floated into the air and started writing bloody words on the wall. In fear, he went back to his bed and pulled the sheet over himself. Then, something even worse happened. A dreadful woman appeared in his room.
Please do justice, Judge. I am innocent. I am innocent.
She threw the pen straight at John's head. The nib broke against him, and he blacked out. When John woke up, he was in the hospital with Mr. Jack by his side. Before he could say anything, Mr. Jack explained that he had been worried about him and went to check on John at his house. When he got there, he found John unconscious in his room and brought him to the hospital. John looked in the mirror, confused. There was no blood, no wound, no sign of the pen at all. John's thoughts raced. It had to be a nightmare. But no, how could it be if I had actually fainted right there in the room? There was no blood, no wound, nothing on my head. Maybe it was just a dream. But I could still hear that woman's dreadful voice echoing in my ears. How could that be a dream? Mr. Jack told him he would stay at John's house for a few days to help. That made John feel relieved and safer. A few hours later, the doctors allowed John to go home. He got into the car with Mr. Jack, but as soon as they started driving, John felt something was pulling the car. He told Mr. Jack, but Mr. Jack thought it was just his nerves and told him to ignore it. Then suddenly, the car stopped. Mr. Jack stepped out to check what was wrong. Just then, John got a call from an unknown number. Someone was crying on the line, but the signal was so bad he couldn't hear properly. He stepped out of the car and walked a bit further, trying to get a clear signal. Then a voice came through the phone. the same voice he'd heard from that unknown number. "Your time is over, dear Judge." John was filled with fear after hearing that voice again. He tried to run away, but then he heard Mr. Jack screaming from somewhere across the forest. Even though he was terrified, John forced himself to go help. When he got there, he couldn't find Mr. Jack anywhere. Instead, he saw the same horrifying woman he'd seen in his room. "You'll have to die." John fell to his knees, begging for forgiveness, asking why she wanted to kill him. The ghost only stared at him with empty eyes and whispered one name that sent chills down his spine. "Remember, that Anna." Then John remembered. Years ago, he had taken a bribe and given a false judgment against an innocent woman named Anna. Even though he knew the real killer was a rich man, John sentenced her to death. Anna was hanged for a crime she never committed, and now she'd come back to punish him the same way. John was overwhelmed with guilt and fear, but there was nothing he could do. Anna raised her finger toward John. Suddenly, he felt himself being lifted into the air and then hung from the tree. He fell hard to the ground, hitting his head badly. Terrified, he got up and ran out of the forest as fast as he could. When John finally reached home, he was confused and shaken, still wondering where Mr. Jack had gone. Inside, he saw Mr. Jack crying. John tried to ask why he'd left him alone in the forest, but Mr. Jack didn't answer or even look at him. Then, John turned toward the bed and froze. There, lying on the bed, was his own body. At that moment, John understood the truth. He had died when he fell from the tree. His soul had already separated from his body. Standing near his corpse was the ghost of Anna, smiling with satisfaction. And Anna, that's me. This is how I took my revenge.
Because of the New Year holidays, the hostel had become completely empty, except for room number 344. Inside, Maria, Sarah, Anna, and Victoria sat quietly, listening to the sounds of celebration drifting in from outside, unaware that this would be the last normal night of their lives. They wanted to go out too, but fate had brought them here instead. Maria's train ticket had been canceled because of heavy fog. Sarah's parents had recently moved abroad, and Anna had been running a fever a few days earlier, and the doctor had strictly forbidden her from traveling. And when Victoria was asked why she didn't want to go, she simply said that she didn't feel like it. She'd only recently become friends with the other three and had moved into this room not long ago. So they didn't question her any further. At midnight, when the celebrations outside suddenly grew louder, the excitement in the air made the four of them want to do something fun as well. Maria, who is very fun-loving, suggested that they recall and share their memories from the past year. But Anna said, not just memories, horror memories. She suggested that each of them share a frightening experience that had happened to them over the past year. Victoria clearly refused, but Anna forcefully made her sit with them anyway. The lights were turned off, and they all sat down in a circle. Maria was the first to begin telling her story. Maybe none of you'll believe me, but I once spent an entire night alone inside a graveyard. I've never shared this with anyone before, but I don't think I can keep it to myself anymore. 2 years ago, my parents passed away, and my Uncle Sam took responsibility for me. But I missed my parents terribly and would spend hours sitting in the graveyard. My uncle knew about my condition and often warned me not to go there, afraid that something terrible might happen to me. Then one day, my birthday arrived. I had thought that after my parents' death, no one would celebrate it anymore. My uncle surprised me. I was incredibly happy. Later that day, my uncle shared some big news with me. He told me I had been accepted into that college. I was overjoyed. It had always been my dream to get into this college and become an engineer. That night, I went to sleep filled with happiness. Suddenly, I woke up in the middle of the night. An intense panic washed over me. When I looked around, everything was pitch dark. After a while, it slowly dawned on me that I was inside a grave. I remembered reading in a book that for some time after death, a person feels as if they are still alive, and I began to believe that this was exactly what was happening. I thought that I was already dead and simply didn't know it yet. The fear I felt at that moment was impossible to put into words. I tried hard to focus on my memories, but the only thing I could recall was that I had been lying on my bed earlier that night. For almost an hour, I remained trapped in the belief that I was already dead. I kept worrying about my uncle, imagining how he would feel without me. But then I realized that something wasn't right. I slowly tried to calm myself down. When I finally checked my heartbeat, it was normal. My breathing was steady too. In that moment, the terrifying truth hit me. I had been buried alive. Gathering all my strength, I tried to move my hands. The soil felt soft, as if the grave was newly dug. I began scraping at the dirt with my fingernails. With every movement, soil poured into my eyes, my mouth, and my clothes. Breathing became harder with each passing second, but stopping was not an option. I knew that if I lost hope at that moment, everything would end right there. Then a small amount of soil fell from above, followed by a sudden rush of air. It was the most precious breath of my life. I kept pushing without stopping, and finally managed to pull myself out. Maybe it was just my imagination, or maybe the truth, but I believed that some spirit had helped me that night. Otherwise, how could someone escape a grave so easily? The graveyard was completely silent. Graves surrounded me on all sides, and above was a dark, endless night. My entire body was trembling, but at least I was alive. At that moment, I heard the sound of footsteps coming from a distance. I turned around, and everything became clear. Something I should have understood earlier. This had not been an accident. I had been brought to the grave. I had been buried alive. And I had also discovered who had already claimed my life and my property as their own. Before this incident, when I had heard the news about my college admission, I felt afraid that after moving into the hostel, someone might take control of my property, especially the house filled with my parents' memories. My uncle suggested that I transfer everything into his name, assuring me that he would take care of it all. But I refused. I wanted to keep everything connected to my parents in my own name forever, so I would always feel close to them. My uncle agreed without any argument. At the time, I never imagined what he was actually planning. Victoria's face had grown completely serious. Anna, who had been feeling excited just moments earlier, was now silent. Only one thought kept repeating in her mind. If she had been in Maria's place that night, she would have died of a heart attack right there. After a brief pause, Anna began to tell her own story. 4 years earlier, when I went home for Christmas, something very strange happened. The whole family had been invited to a party that night. I was extremely excited, but suddenly my health worsened and I developed a fever, so I had to stay home alone. It had only been about 2 hours since my family left when someone started knocking on my bedroom door. I was shocked. There was no one else in the house, so who could it be? At first,
I assumed it was just my imagination and ignored it, but the knocking grew louder. When I finally checked, there was no one outside, only a note lying there. I was terrified. Yet I felt I had to know what the note said. So we opened the door. The message revealed that the person knew I was alone at home and claimed to be with me. I turned around immediately, but there was no one there. The room was completely empty. It was when I noticed the window was open. I clearly remembered closing it earlier. I tried to convince myself that someone was playing a prank, but my heart kept telling me that this was no joke. From that night onward, even to this day, every Christmas night makes me feel as if someone is with me, watching me, following me. My mother believes it is the spirit of my younger brother, who passed away at the age of 9 due to a fever on Christmas night. No one else believes this explanation. Even I sometimes wonder if it could be some other spirit entirely. After hearing her story, everyone was deeply shaken. Sarah began to think that if any of this was true, then perhaps that spirit might be present in our room tonight as well. She even started to feel as if someone was watching the 4 of them at that very moment. She admitted that she'd often sensed something suspicious about the hostel. Many people said that 10 years ago, a girl had committed suicide in that very room after being caught stealing exam papers, which led to her expulsion from college. The atmosphere had become so frightening that everyone wanted to stop the discussion. Everyone except Maria. She believed that fear should not be ignored, but faced head-on. Encouraged by her words, Sarah finally began to share her own story. I had never been buried alive, nor was I followed by any spirit, but something had happened to me one night that I did not deserve. The punishment was far greater than my mistake. I was returning from a late-night party when I was stopped on the road. The police asked for my license, and I panicked because I had left it at home. When they questioned me further, I started arguing. One constable lost his temper and arrested me. Since no cell was available at the time, I was locked in an old cell where another girl was already present. I was terrified. For a long time, the girl remained silent. Then, after noticing my fear, she finally spoke. She told me that I was still safe, for now, and that in that country, one should not expect justice. Her words made me even more anxious. I asked her why she had been brought here. She replied that she was being punished for a crime she had never committed. She said that she had been accused of illegal activities in college, even though she had stolen nothing. And despite my doubts, I found myself believing her, because her voice carried genuine pain. We talked throughout the night, yet she never once looked directly at me. Eventually, I fell asleep without even realizing it. In the morning, I was released, but the other girl was gone. Fearing that something worse had happened to her, I asked the police. Their response shocked me. They asked if I had seen that girl too, adding that it was not the first time this had happened. They explained that a girl had once been kept in that cell for several days. She had stolen exam papers from a college and distributed them to other students. Though she was later released, she could no longer face anyone. Overwhelmed by shame and fear, she had taken her own life. Since then, she had been seen by many people. She appeared only to tell her story, so that no one else would suffer the same fate. She never harmed anyone. She only spoke. After that night, I never passed by a police station again. The girl began appearing in my dreams, asking me to seek justice on her behalf. But no matter how much I wanted to help, I knew there was nothing I could do. By now, everyone was terrified. Anna asked if the girl appeared only in dreams, or if Sarah had ever felt her presence in real life. Maria quickly tried to calm her down, insisting that nothing like that was happening, and then asked Victoria to share her story. Victoria said she had no story, because she was no longer alive. Everyone laughed, assuming it was a joke, but in the very next moment, Victoria held up a mirror. And the truth was revealed before their eyes. She then exposed a secret that shook them all. The girl from the prison cell had been named Victoria, and she was the same one who had been falsely accused of cheating. And that's why, on New Year's night, she had taken her own life in hostel room number 344. The exam papers had actually been stolen by her classmates, but the blame had been placed on her, and she had not been able to bear it. She had nowhere to go. She no longer had a home. Victoria revealed that she had been the one who helped Maria escape from the grave. And on the night Anna felt a presence, it had not been her brother, it had been Victoria. That night, Anna had not been safe. Thieves were about to break into her house, and Victoria had intervened to protect her. She admitted that she was dead, but wherever she saw injustice, she would be there. Would it happen to her, she would never allow to happen to anyone else again.
It was April 1st, April Fool's Day. Andrew and Austin took this a little too seriously and were playing a prank on the entire school. Now it was Charlie's turn, the one everyone affectionately called Chip. Andrew and Austin took Chip aside and told him they had discovered a huge secret. They said that on the road he takes to get home, there's a house where no one lives, except for spirits. Hearing this, Chip burst out laughing, because he knew it was April Fool's Day, and they were trying to trick him. Instead of getting scared, he turned the tables and made fun of them. They both told him that it was fine, and if Chip really wasn't scared, he should go into the house and check it out. He had to go inside and record a 5-minute video. Chip was scared deep down, but now he was stuck. If he didn't listen to them, Andrew and Austin would make fun of him in front of the whole school. So he agreed. They explained the exact location of the house to him and then left from there. After school, Chip nervously stepped forward, Andrew and Austin walking behind him. When he reached the house, he glanced back, expecting them to be outside, but they were already gone. Trembling, he stepped inside. He thought maybe Andrew and Austin had gone in before him. But suddenly, the lights started flickering, and he heard things breaking. It felt like someone was welcoming him in the worst way. He ran toward the door, but it slammed shut on its own. He screamed, but it was no use. He was trapped. He tried hiding in a corner, But it was too late. The situation had already gotten out of control.
You cannot leave, child.
Chip still thought it was Andrew and Austin behind all of this, that they must have hidden a speaker somewhere to play the voice. But as the presence drew closer, his body went ice cold with fear. And then he fainted. When he opened his eyes, he was in his own bed. His parents were standing over him. Chip screamed, insisting that Andrew and Austin had gone too far with their ghost act, that they shouldn't have scared him like that. His parents looked at him, stunned. "Son, Andrew and Austin came straight from school to our house. They told us that you went somewhere after school. So they were both waiting for you here." Hearing this, Chip froze. It meant everything he had seen was real, not a prank. But he never told anyone. He didn't know how he had made it home after fainting, or how the witch had vanished. All he knew was, someday, somehow, she would come back. And when she did, she would find him.
I have always been a huge football fan. I grew up admiring the way my team achieved incredible and sometimes shocking victories. At the same time, I've always been the kind of person who enjoys watching mystery and horror movies late at night. Sometimes, after those late night movies, everything around me would start to feel unsettling. Even ordinary sounds, like a cat's meow, would feel eerie, as if they were coming from something unnatural. But things changed when I finally got the chance to watch a FIFA World Cup match in the stadium with my best friend Skylar. I was so excited that I barely slept the night before. When we arrived, the atmosphere was electric. Everyone was completely locked into the match, as if all their problems had been left outside the stadium. While I was focused on the pitch, I noticed someone watching me. At first, I tried to ignore her. But something about her felt off. Her eyes were wide and unsettling. Her teeth were dark yellow and uneven. And her hair looked messy, like in a way that didn't feel normal. Still, I told myself the match mattered more than a strange woman. A few minutes later, I looked again, and she was still staring. This time, our eyes met. Slowly, she raised her hand and made a motion across her neck, as if signaling that she would cut my throat. Then, she pointed directly at me. A cold chill ran through my body and I froze. What scared me even more was that no one else seemed to notice her. Not a single person. Not even Skylar, who was sitting right next to me. I couldn't take it anymore and called out, "Skylar! Skylar!" Skylar, fully focused on the match, finally turned to me with confusion and asked what was wrong. I couldn't bring myself to look at the woman again, so I pointed toward the seat without turning my head. Skylar frowned. She said the seat was empty. I looked again. It was empty. I tried to explain that there had been a woman threatening me, but Skylar just laughed it off, thinking I was joking or trying to get attention during the match. Eventually, she turned back to the game, but suddenly the stadium lights went out. Complete darkness swallowed everything. No sound, no movement, just silence. And yet, I could still feel it, those eyes, watching me. I couldn't see her clearly anymore, but I sensed movement from that same section. A figure was standing up and slowly walking toward me. Each step felt closer than the last. My body went cold and my breathing became heavy. I shut my eyes. I thought I might be in a grave. Or that woman would already be right in front of me with a knife. I screamed and my eyes flew open wider. That's when I saw the crowd around me. The lights had come back on. They looked angry, as if I had been disturbing them during an important match. Skylar, clearly embarrassed, was trying to handle the situation. After they left, she asked me what had happened. I knew she would just probably ignore me again, so I didn't tell her anything. I didn't leave the stadium either because I didn't have the courage to walk away from that seat. Skylar was still, in some way, my only support. I didn't look back at that seat again, trying to escape the fear that felt like it was still coming toward me. I felt like I had started a new life when I finally reached home. But it was hard to forget that horrifying experience. My mind kept telling me it had happened because I used to watch crime and murder movies late at night. Maybe my brain had imagined something that never really existed. That thought comforted me, and I finally went to bed. After a few moments, a knocking sound broke the silence in my room. At first, I thought it was just some random noise from the wind or the house settling, but then it grew louder. It was coming from under the bed. As I leaned forward, my heart stopped. I saw her, the same woman from the stadium. She was real. I followed you to your home. Now, it's time to die. Back then, I spent my evenings watching FIFA World Cup matches. Among all the players, one man inspired me the most, Adrian Voss. He was a world-famous football star in his era, playing for the USA while I was from England. Whenever he touched the ball, something exciting happened. Impossible goals, perfect passes, last-minute victories. People called him a football genius. I wanted to be just like him. I practiced every day. I copied his moves, I watched every interview he gave. Sometimes I imagined myself standing beside him in a World Cup final. Years later, my dream came true. I was selected to represent England in the FIFA World Cup. But there was a problem. My England team had been drawn against the USA, against Adrian Voss. The moment I saw the schedule, my stomach dropped. How was I supposed to play against my hero? For days, I could not sleep. The night before the match was even worse. I kept staring at the ceiling of my hotel room. The clock showed 2:17 in the morning. Everyone else seemed to be asleep. I decided to go outside and get some fresh air. The training pitch was connected to the hotel. The floodlights were off, leaving most of the field in darkness. The wind was cold. I slowly walked across the grass. Then I froze. Someone was sitting alone on a bench near the center of the pitch. A man wearing a USA team shirt. My heart started racing. It was Adrian Voss. I could not believe it. The greatest player in the world was sitting alone in the middle of the night. I walked toward him. He looked strangely calm, almost too calm. "You can't sleep either?" he asked. His voice sounded quiet. For several minutes, we sat together on the empty pitch. I told him how I had watched his matches since childhood. I told him he was the reason I started playing football and the reason I never gave up on my dream. He listened quietly and then gave me some advice about the match. "Focus on your future. Tomorrow, you won't even be able to play against me because..." I looked at him confused. For a moment, his expression changed. He looked frightened, as if he had suddenly remembered something terrible. Then he stood up. "You should go back to your room." I thanked him and started walking back toward the hotel. Halfway there, something wet landed on my shoulder. I looked down. A dark stain. At first, I thought it was rain. Then another drop landed beside it. And another. My heart started pounding. Slowly, I looked up. One of the hotel windows was open. The room above me was completely dark. Another drop fell from the window frame. I took a step backward. Then I noticed something. 2 feet, hanging motionless beyond the edge of the window. My entire body went cold. I could not move. I couldn't breathe. The darkness inside the room seemed endless. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but fear had locked every muscle in my body. After what felt like forever, I forced myself to walk away. I convinced myself I would tell everyone in the morning. Someone else would know what to do. Back in my room, I locked the door. I did not sleep for a single second. Morning finally arrived. Voices filled the hallway. People were running. Doors slammed open. I stepped outside. Every face looked terrified. Then I heard the news. The famous star player Adrian Voss had been murdered during the night. According to the report, he had been found dead in his hotel room, the same room above the training pitch, the same window where I had seen the hanging feet. I felt my legs weaken. Someone handed me a phone showing a news article. The estimated time of death was before 2 o'clock in the morning. I stared at the screen. My hand started shaking because I had spoken to Adrian Voss after 2 o'clock in the morning. I had sat beside him. I had heard his voice. I had received his advice. The time of death never changed. Was it my hallucination? Or did he come to meet me after his death?